And we're back here on Seaside Chats with Kenneth Arthur, covering the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft as the Seahawks are just about on the clock, and the LA Chargers have made their pick at 28, putting the Seahawks on the clock at 29 and 30. And the pick is Jerry Tillery, who we actually picked for the Seahawks in the SB Nation writers mock draft. We had Jerry Tillery. We were forced to select at 21, and so we had Tillery at 21 there. Here he is available at 28, and he goes to the Chargers. A year ago, of course, the Chargers took Derwin James ahead of the Seahawks when they were going to be on the clock, and Derwin James obviously turned out to be a pretty good rookie, and who knows if the Seahawks would have picked him anyway. As of now, Jerry Tillery goes off the board to the Chargers. So with two picks here available, Matty, obviously it's not going to be Tillery. How does the rest of the board look to you?
Well, that's a disappointing one for sure. Because I mean, the one thing with Tillery is he had a hot and cold motor, and I do wonder if that sort of smart, tough, reliable. I wonder if his reliability was questioned by Seattle. You know, they've undergone this culture reset. The Legion of Boom is no more, and maybe they don't want Tillery's character there, but I do feel like they've been sniped somewhat. The sort of guys now to look for is Chase Winovich, who can play Leo, sort of the outside, wider than the tackles, far outside, or maybe a Charles Amenahu type, though that seems pretty early for him. But he's a 5 technique, or I think really now maybe Paris Campbell, dynamic wide receiver. Again, feels a bit early, but the Seahawks like doing stuff like that. Or DK Metcalf is still on the board. Absolutely huge, ran rapid, and would be a big body downfield target for Russell Wilson to hit. It'll be interesting to see if they trade back with a quarterback needy team, such as Denver haven't taken quarterback yet, have they? Or Cincinnati, perhaps. That would be the sort of team to move back with.
Yeah. You would think that if the Seahawks are going to trade back, they wouldn't do it here because then they would be allowing a team to trade over them. So unless they were planning to trade both picks, you would think they would use this one here.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then trade at 30 if they do have a trade that they like. If they only get one trade offer that they like, then they would pick at 29 and then trade at 30 to ensure that they at least get the player that they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to a break, just as the Seahawks have 2 picks.
Yes. Have you tweeted out the link?
Let me refresh that. But did you have any thoughts? We've missed we haven't even missed, but we didn't cover the last 6 or 7 picks. Did you have any thoughts as that was happening?
Mainly that a lot of the players who were going off the board weren't the sort of players who'd be under consideration for Seattle. Unfortunately, the as we just came on air again, that Tillery pick really was the one who I thought would be the sort of Seahawks player. But then again, as a rabbit's on about, his motor may not have fit their profile. Jonathan Abram was a guy I think some Seahawks fans thought could end up as a Seattle player, and he has got like he's sort of like Keanu Neal, sort of Cam Chancellor type, really fast, bullets downhill, smacks people. For me though, his coverage is a massive weakness, like more so than Neal or even Chancellor, in the fact that he's like an inside linebacker in a safety's body. To be honest with you, he could do with I'm not really sure what his fit is, and it's a bit strange what Oakland are doing because, it's a bit strange because it's like they've got Carl Joseph, who's more of a box as well, and then they've gone for another box safety. So and then they've done the first round running back thing, and they're just clearly, I mean, yeah, they're just being Oakland. Montez Sweat, guy who we thought maybe could end up in Seattle. Washington actually has a sneaky good defense, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's finally gone there, and it's good to see that the medical stuff and whether it was right or wrong, and whether the report was correct or not, and whether the diagnosis was correct or not. It's good to see that he's still a first round player for his sake. Marquise Brown to Baltimore. I was interested to see whether he'd fall out of the first round entirely. We've seen with Tyreek Hill on the field what he can do. As a dynamic threat. Interestingly, Steve Smith compared him to Antonio Brown, his cousin, which is I can kind of see that the way that they run their routes. The big thing with Marquise Brown is he's got a Lisfranc injury, and that's actually really a massive inhibitor for a lot of athletes. It really does affect their speed. It looks like Seattle's going to make this pick as the clock keeps ticking down and down and down.
Well, 30 Acre Fortress, Chris made an interesting point, which is that the Seahawks technically don't need to make a pick at all until the end of the pick on 30 because
they don't. Yeah,
it'll just revert to them, because they can't skip themselves.
And it cut to a image, well, a live feed of John Schneider in the war room, and he is on the phone. So he's clearly, it looks like he might be trading back again, which would make sense. He's probably trying to bring up the quarterback needy teams. Of course, it's a benefit for teams wanting to trade maybe into the first round so that they can get that quarterback on a rookie contract, which gives them, of course, the 5th-year option.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a unique situation, having 2 picks in a row, and especially with a team like the Seahawks. And I don't know if there are players now or quarterbacks now that are so hyped up the team needs to do a move right now, unless they do feel a certain way about, Brett Rippon or what's the name of the other guy?
Sorry. The other tackle.
There's at least I can't remember.
You're talking about
Drew
offensive
Lock.
tackles?
Does Drew Lock wasn't picked, right?
Yes. Yeah, Drew Lock and Will Greer, the 2 quarterbacks I'd look for in terms of people who, teams might want to take in the first round. The rest of the guys have gone really. Seattle seems to have let the clock expire here, just as 30 Acre Fortress.
Chris was 30 Acre Fortress is 100% right. They're going into their own, but now it says Seahawks pick is in, but obviously it's like they used up all the time. They're in no hurry, and they're going to work that phone until the last second.
Indeed.
Seahawks are making a pick, it says. I'll avoid Twitter and just, I guess, hear the pick live, even though if you could keep your reaction down, Matty, I know you're going to get it there just before. Or if you have to mute yourself during your reaction.
Yes, just as the UK is 9 hours ahead.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm about 2 minutes ahead of you, a minute. Yeah. Oh my word, Seattle really milking the limelight.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting if they do trade one, if it's one pick, or if they're going to go pick.
So who I'd want to see here is, personally, if they're going to go wide receiver, there's a lot of talk about Paris Campbell. I won't talk about him now because I feel like he may be the pick. But the guy I'd like is Deebo Samuel. He's 5'11", 216 pounds, comes from South Carolina University, and he is an absolute ball of energy. I mean, you see someone with that sort of height and weight, you think that's a running back, and he does play like one. He's very elusive, he's very physical, but his first step quickness and explosion, reflected by a 39-inch vertical jump, really does shine on tape. He can separate quickly. He always resets the line of scrimmage to get off press, adding another weapon to his toolkit. And not that a toolkit would have weapons on it anyway. That would be a bit of a weird toolkit anyway. But yeah, he'd be a perfect sort of player who could fit the Golden Tate role in Seattle's offense, which really we haven't had that run after catch yak sort of player since well, forever really, because I mean, it was an issue last year as Mookie Alexander did a great job highlighting on the website, but the website being Field Goals, and I think that was a massive element missing to the Schottenheimer offense because Doug Baldwin was banged up, Tyler Lockett was the deep guy, but then where was that bubble screen threat? Where was that jet sweep threat? Where was the guy who could transform like a little play into big yardage? And Debo is like a sort of ripped, pumped up Golden Tate. Ran a 4.48 40, which is big in terms of John Schneider's never ever taken a wide receiver in the first 2 days who's ran slower than the 4.4s, and he's only ever taken two who've run slower than the 4.4s in his whole draft history in Seattle. So he clearly values speed, and Debo just met those parameters, and he could slim down if needed. But really, you like him at 216 pounds because he's such a lump. And also, he's a really good kick returner. I think he had 3 kick return touchdowns in college, one of the best in college football. So he'd be able to sort of take the burden off Tyler Lockett, just like Rashad Penny.
We need to talk about how the Seahawks are making everybody wait. The full amount of time here. If the pick is in, it's been just floating in the wind like a fart, and they have done nothing. As we mentioned, they were not in a rush to make an announcement. If the pick is in, they were just like, okay, well, we're not going to make you go up there twice in a row, so I guess we're going to maybe there's a pick is in, or maybe they just made a guess that the pick is in, but it's been interesting to see how long the Seahawks have made this wait, and I think that they probably are. I would be surprised because if they make 2 picks here, then their next pick isn't until the 3rd round, and then they've got these extra 2 now in the 4th round. And then they have 1 in the 5th, so the 5 total from the 3rd to the 5th. And I don't know if it's going to be a long break after this if they decide not to trade down. But then you also have the problem of needing to have a trade partner. It's not necessarily an easy thing. There aren't a lot of teams out there that can offer the Seahawks a 2nd round pick.
For me, it has to be Denver or Cincinnati for that quarterback. And the way I'd see it is John Schneider's probably playing them off each other. He's probably on the phone to them, and he's probably saying, well, I've got this offer from this team. I need this from you to make it worth it. He's probably really trying to bleed them dry for the best offer possible. And I think Denver and Cincinnati, I think they're number 9 and number 10 in the 2nd round. I remember writing about that earlier on. And then I think they'll make a pick with the other selection. And the question really is, do they take an edge like Chase Winovich, who may be available in the 2nd round? And there's other pure edge rushers like Max Crosby or Ben Benogu, who a bit more raw as players, but are very athletic. Or do they take a wide receiver when there's still a load of wide receivers on the board, including guys like DK Metcalf, who seem to be a nailed-on 1st rounder? And there's guys on the flip side of that, like there's guys like Terry McLaurin who might even get into the late 2nd, 3rd round.
It's like the Seahawks coordinated this with the NFL. They could have this long commercial break for 15 minutes as the Seahawks have been on the clock for literally like 15 minutes. And we're getting there now to have them either make 1 pick, 2 picks, trades. We're going to find out soon, but I wish I didn't know. I wish I wish Chris wasn't right about how long this is taking. Lots of options, lots of ways they could go. Yeah, those wide receivers. They definitely, have a need of edge rush and pass and rush, and a lot of ways to go. And yeah, if they don't move down here, it's going to be a long 2nd round. But like we said, difficult to find those trade partners.
Right. Well, let me know when you've seen the pick, because obviously I'm ahead of you.
I haven't seen anything yet. We're back into Nashville, whatever room this is that they're holding this draft in.
I'm seeing Roger Goodell walk up, still getting booed valiantly.
Yeah, I see that the Rams are on the clock. So the Seahawks have not. Yeah, Roger Goodell's not put out. I'm assuming or come out. I'm assuming he'll be coming out in about 30 seconds based on previously discussed time differences.
Right. You just yeah, let me know.
Yeah, nothing yet. But I see the 12 flags and the Seahawks fans that the cameras coalesced around them as the time is up for the Seahawks to make. Here we go. Here's Roger Goodell. So you'll be hearing it as I see it. The Seahawks make a pick. Oh yeah, great. So they went with a guy that we all knew they would take, which is someone that no one has talked about at all. LJ Collier, defensive end at TCU. So edge player, absolutely. They've gone for a defensive end. LJ Collier, not anyone. Yeah, it's perfect. This is such a perfect Seahawks pick because I'm sure that others have said that he's not a first round talent. And I know that I didn't see him in any mock drafts. And gotta love how much this is. And then the Seahawks have traded pick 30 to the New York Giants. So there you go. They get their player and they also trade down. Matty, what do you got to say about LJ Collier?
I have to think that Jerry Tillery was the guy that they wanted, and they got sniped by the Chargers. This is a really, I mean, like you said, this is not a guy who most people would have said is a first round talent. This feels like a reach. Um, I mean, he met their parameters of. I mean, he's more of a 5 tech, so he's not a pure edge necessarily. I mean, NFL Network, Mike Mayock, not Mike Mayock, sorry, Daniel Jeremiah compared him to a Michael Bennett type, and he does have that inside out feel, that outside shoulder the tackle, but can move to 3 technique and outside shoulder the guard, which is what he did at the Senior Bowl, and he did dominate with nice drive and good pad level. What surprises me most about this is though he jumped 30 inches in the vertical at 283 pounds at the NFL Combine, I'm very shocked that he didn't meet any of their other sort of requirements in terms of athletic testing. And I think they've just sort of, I mean, with 5 technique, they seem to get a bit looser with it and scout more on traits, and they don't seem to have many athletic thresholds. This is just quite surprising because, like, I mean, he's very aggressive and he was a good run defender, but it's such an odd projection as well from coming from TCU, so that does make things a bit difficult. But and he does have really good length with 34-inch arms, which is, you know, but I'm just a bit shocked that he's not very bendy. He's the main thing for me is Seattle. All their players seem to have like an amazing reaction to the snap. They move off the ball so well. Like Michael Bennett, how many times was he offside because he was always trying to jump the snap? Like Collier's really, to me, what I saw was he was slow off the ball and it was like he couldn't really, he wasn't really slippy and couldn't really slip inside people. He wasn't really, and when you look at someone like Charles Amenahu, who I liked, and you think he was probably going to be available in round 2 or round 3, this makes this even more of a surprising, unusual pick. And it's not just because it's a reach on a guy who they like. It's a reach on a guy who I didn't really expect them to feel
Yeah.
that strongly about. I think maybe you could understand it in the 4th or 3rd rounds, but this is but then again, like as I said, Charles Amenahu felt far more Seahawky. Of course, Collier had a 1 of 30 visit with the Seahawks, so they've spent a lot of time on him and they've interviewed him and they've clearly fallen in love with him. But it's that lack of get off the ball and lack of ability to slip inside of guys that and bend, which really doesn't feel Seahawky at all. Though, yeah, he's gonna fit in at the 5 technique spot and play 3 technique as well. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of. I bet Twitter is an absolute minefield right now.
Well, one of the nice things that we found was the Seahawks. I think this is good. They go from 30 to 37 with the Giants picking up picks 132 and 142, late 4th and early 5th. So we've seen the Seahawks tonight go from picks 29 and 21 to 29, 37, 132, 142, 114, and 118. So they pick up 3 4th-round picks and a 5th-round pick just by moving down from 21 to 3 to 37. So I think that's that's a pretty good haul, wouldn't you say?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Kenny?
Oh yeah,
I'm
no.
flabbergasted.
Just even outside the Collier pick with pick 21, they
Yes.
move from 21 to 37. They pick up 3 4th-round picks and a 5th-round pick. So
Yes.
they did a good job of beefing up day
Yeah,
3.
you're right. That is a good haul, and I could definitely see them using 2 of those fourths to move up to get a third, or I don't know exactly how the value works, but I expect them to have another 3rd-round pick by the end of the day, if that makes sense. And I think probably the 2nd-round pick is going to probably be someone like Paris Campbell. You could see a run on. I could definitely see in round 2 a run on wide receivers happening. If you think Arizona, Indianapolis, Oakland, San Francisco, Seattle, they could all do with receivers, right? So
Uh-huh.
a mini run at the start of round 2 would make sense. Be interesting to see who New England gets here at 32, actually. Wow, if
Mm-hmm.
the league allows someone like DK Metcalf to go to New England, that would be something. I think a guy to look for to New England is probably someone like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Florida safety, a guy who was on Seattle's radar as well. And, he's a sort of do-it-all safety. That's quite the pick from Seattle.
And we just saw the Falcons make a pick. They've taken a tackle, Caleb McGarry out of Washington. So they've taken 2 offensive linemen in the 1st round. Clearly, they've got an agenda there. But yeah, we didn't see Josh Rosen traded tonight, unless he's traded right now.
Oh, New England. New England go and get the Tom Brady heir.
Yeah, that would be the thing that a lot of people fear. Obviously, New England too. They're always looking to trade back if they can, but they do have 12 picks in this draft. They've made a super haul in comp picks and the trades that they've made to have 12 picks in this draft, including 5 tomorrow. So they could still trade back again, but there's a lot of players on the board. But just looking at Seattle, LJ Collier, the first, he's going to be their 1st-round pick this year. That's a certain amount of reputation. Their first overall pick this year, which carries a certain amount of pressure. Stacking it up against the other 1st-round picks that they've had, which is sometimes rare. You're looking at guys like Jermaine Afidi, Bruce Irvin, James Carpenter, and then going back to Earl Thomas, Russell Okung, LJ Collier, he was a guy that, again, not a lot of people were talking about at this range. Pretty common for that to happen to Seattle. But, Matty, are there signs within LJ Collier that, if as you step away, it's just like, is there a super good outcome, perhaps, in a best case scenario?
I mean, he does have the traits to play the effective sort of 5 technique outside shoulder of the tackle position, and sort of definitely fix the run D element. I mean, he's powerful and can anchor at the point of attack and plays with violence, and he seems to have quite a good motor to me. But it's just the lack of pass rush upside that to me is a bit surprising. Having said that, if I get up the pressure percentages, I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure he did well in terms of that. Hold on. Yeah, so he ranks amongst defensive tackles in 5 techniques. He ranks amongst all draft eligible defensive tackles in 5 techniques. LJ Collier ranked 2nd with a 14.6% pressure percentage, which was only behind Quinn and Williams. Now, the Seahawks talked about having a disruptive, active nuisance of a player and finding them on the defensive line. So that's clearly their line of thinking, and Collier can do that. It's just for me it's just the lack of ways he wins in a Seahawks style. So I'm going to have to go watch that tape again.
Yeah, LJ Collier, joins a small fraternity. First round pick for the Seahawks, first round picks for Pete Carroll and John Schneider. A very small fraternity of athletes out of TCU. 6'2", 283 pounds, 34-inch arms, 10-inch hands. Ran a 4.91 in the 40-yard dash at a 30-inch vertical jump. Yeah, just reading some of his player bio from NFL.com. Collier did not start any games in his first 4 years with the Horned Frogs, but consistently contributed as a reserve. He redshirted his first year on campus before playing in 4 games in 2015. So it really spent a lot of time as a backup for 4 years, and then last year started 10 of 11 games, garnering first-team All-Big 12 honors with 42 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 6 sacks, and 4 pass breakups. So that's it. He's Seattle Seahawks, LJ Collier, and it'll be interesting, and obviously they'll have a lot of positive things to say about Collier tonight and in the coming days, of course. I think you're going to start to hear the positive things about him and the positive side of why they would make a pick that not a lot of people would have had Collier going in this range again, but it's not anything that they're not used to. They're quite used to explaining why they took a player quote unquote early. But at the end of the day, the Seahawks move on from 21 and 29 to 29 and for now 37. But as I said, with 3 extra picks in round 4, 1 extra pick in round 5, they could still move again at 37. And as Matty said, maybe still pick up a 3rd round pick somewhere along the way. They have plenty to work with right now. And now LJ Collier in the mix as well. Matty, your final thoughts on the first round, how the first round went in general, and we take all those things into account following the Frank Clark trade. They come away with the player that maybe not a lot of people, including yourself, were hoping for. But looking at both picks, what are your initial thoughts?
They took first of all, the Patriots just took N'Keal Harry, which is a guy who had been talked about to Seattle, and I think that will start the receiver run into the second round, which I mentioned earlier. Overall thoughts on, the Seahawks needed an edge rusher, and they took that with their first pick, so we can't criticize that. This was their guy, maybe not. I'm worried that Tillery may have been, but if this was their guy, then they've got their guy, and we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. The pressure percentage numbers are very promising. The fact he placed second amongst all draft eligible defensive tackles, and he did that in the Big 12, where they get the ball out quick in the Big 12. They really do. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of pass rushing snaps, which means that you get gassed on defense, and also I imagine it's pretty hard to maintain such a high percentage of pressures. So I'll have to I'll rewatch the tape, and of course we'll have a tape breakdown on Collier hopefully pretty damn soon.
Tomorrow, Cardinals, Colts, Raiders, 49ers, and then the Seahawks are on the clock. As we've said, moving down from 21 to 30 and then from 30 to 37. The Seahawks have moved down, and so they'll be on the clock with 4 more teams between them and that pick. And then they got, a 3rd round pick later on, and then a lot more activity to kick off day 4 now, as they've added all these 4th round picks. So they'll be very busy in the 4th round. Maybe that's where they move into the 3rd round. This, has been the annual first round stream of the Seahawks in the first round. And this year they give us something to talk about, both a player and 2 trades. So grateful for that. Grateful and thank you to Matty for sticking along throughout the first round. Follow him on Twitter at Matty F. Brown. And of course, read his continuous breakdowns on field goals. And there'll be stuff in the coming days on LJ Collier and in the coming weeks and so on and so forth. And we'll see what other players come around. And this podcast, Seaside Chats with Kenneth Arthur, we've been mentioning that April is Josh Thompson month, as he has sponsored the show so that it can be available for free. And if you'd like the show and you want to continue to support it, you can do that at patreon.com/fieldgoals for just $2 a month and up level. You can get all the podcast episodes included. So there's that. And the Seahawks have a player. They've got trades. They've got plenty more to do. They've never had fewer than 8 picks in a draft. When people were worried about them having 4 going into this year, obviously that was never going to be the end result. And here they are, 8 picks now in the 2019 NFL draft. Plenty to do for the rest of the draft. And I think that there's going to be some more activity to watch. So thank you for, speaking of watching, thank you for listening, which is also one of the senses. This has been Seaside Chats with Kenneth Arthur. Thank you, Matty. Thank you, Joe McAtee, who was earlier in the show, which may or may not make it onto the podcast. But that's it for this episode, and we'll see you after they make some more picks.